Alright guys, let me see if I can explain to you my theory behind these grousers. Let's look at the original ones first. So, I cut one open to use as a drilling pattern, and they are full of rust and dirt and rocks. So, I made a wise decision to just build these things. Now, the original grousers come in these two styles. And you see this one is a little more stout than the original. This grouser is every 7th grouser on the tracks. And what I believe it was originally designed for is to break through ice and to stop sideways movement, so sliding sideways. You see how it's got these little verticals hanging down off of it, and it's extremely heavy. The original grouser is this thin, tiny square tube, probably like 16 gauge, same as the sheeting I used on my for this project, for the paneling. And it's got a bunch of water traps and pockets in it, so they fill up with dirt and mud and start to gain weight and do all kinds of crazy stuff. So the idea I came up with is this. So it's lighter than either one of those originals. The metal is just over 1/8 of an inch. I believe it's 0.190 or something like that. And what I've done is I've created a hybrid of those two designs. So on the end here, I've taken and put in those vertical plates in on both ends. And then intermediately between the 4-bolt system here, I've taken and I've placed these little gussets or supports or whatever you want to call it, which will also help hinder sideways sliding. And I've welded a 3/16 plate onto the bottom of the grouser here. It's a wear plate, so if you do go on asphalt or concrete, you'll still be able to turn without throwing the tracks off the vehicle, because there won't be a super large amount of resistance. So, and those wear plates, once they wear down, you can cut them off and replace them as many times as you want. On the top here, I took some 4-inch flat bar and bent it to create a I'll show you here on the Snowcat here in a minute, but it basically pockets itself into the sprocket on the rear, so it doesn't wear out the rubber on the rear sprocket. And then I just took the leftover from the cutouts here and used all of that material to create the wheel guides. And I left them open on the back so that they won't rust out from the inside, because that's basically what the failure was on these original ones. And they have super thin metal for the wheel guides, and it's so thin in fact that it wore through on some spots. So hoping to avoid that catastrophe on these, my thought process is that these should last a lifetime. Now, some tracks have hardened grousers and some don't. I am not going to run hardened grousers for the simple reason that they crack and they break. I would rather bend a grouser out in the field and carry spares with than bend or crack one, or I'm sorry, crack or break one completely, because you can always bend these back. If you get in a situation where you need to get out of an area, you can drive really slow. But if you have a cracked or broken grouser, you're going to get in trouble because there's no way to fix that out in the field unless you have a welder with you. And even then, you got to take stuff apart. And so anyways, that's my thought process on that. I used two types of coating here. So I started with rust reformer. I sprayed the inside and the outside really well with that. I let it dry, and then I sprayed it down with some marine grade wax. So watching some YouTube videos, this right here was the bee's knees. It's very similar to Cosmoline 342. In fact, it's probably the exact same thing, but this one is about half price of Cosmoline. So yeah, I got 3 of these done. And let me show you what I'm talking about, how they sit on the snowcat. The wax on this is still a little tacky, so that's not dry yet, but basically they have to sit down inside the sprocket here in these little ridges without tearing up the rubber on them, because if you tear up the rubber on these, they're going to be worthless. So you can see they fit perfect. And yes, it is normal to have side-to-side space. There's probably about an inch total side-to-side space, and what that's for is if your tires flex when you're hitting bumps and stuff like that, it doesn't tear up the sides of the tires or pop the tires or break the bead on the tires. So there's a purpose for all of this stuff, and it took me a while to research this and figure all this stuff out. But as far as, you know, getting these things built and making sure they're going to work, I think they're going to work just fine. I don't think I'm going to have any problems with them. They're fairly lightweight. They're lighter than the originals for sure. So I'm glad that I made the decision to do this, even though it's going to be extremely time consuming. I got 3 of them done today, and then I spent a bunch of time just cutting out a bunch more metal. So I got a whole cart full of these rectangle tubes that I can start working on. And this is the heart of the operation here, is these rectangle tubes, because the first thing you have to do is you have to plasma cut those triangles out, and then from those triangles you gain all of your other pieces. So you have to cut all those pieces out too. Here's what I'm using for a drill guide. I just took the top part of that original grouser, and we're going to make everything match with just one drill guide, just like that, for the whole project. So I got these little workstations set up, so you basically go from the cutting table to doing the layout and marking the holes for drilling. Drill outside, you go to the chain vise, you get everything set up in the chain vise, do your plasma cutting, come out here, cut out the pieces that came off the plasma cutter, and then basically you get all your pieces, and then you go back out there and weld everything together. But that's going to be the whole process. I got a pattern going today. I'm going to try to get anywhere from 6 to 10 done every day. I have to order some more Diablo blades. I trashed my first 10-inch blade. That thing went through probably a couple hundred cuts before I trashed it. I think the key to using these blades is to make sure that you're cutting everything on the vertical. If you try to cut everything on the flat, the blade gets hot and it wears out all the cutting tips on it. So I'll have to remember that. But aside from that, I don't think there's much else that I can tell you. It's a whole lot of monotony is what's going to have to happen here for the next couple weeks. If you guys like this video, give me a thumbs up. If you're not subscribed yet, I'd love to have you as a subscriber. Leave me some comments down in the comment section. It helps the channel grow. But as always, guys, Take care, and I'll catch you next time. See you later. Bye-bye.